Welcome to the You Were Designed for Greatness podcast. Each week we will bring you inspiring tips, stories, and ideas to help you be all that you can be, discovering your greatness. Featuring Donna Tashton. Donna is a transformational life and health coach, a highly sought-after public speaker, and the founder of Vibrant Living. She has helped hundreds find a better life, free of stress and living the greatness they were truly designed for. And now, your host, Donna Tashton.
I'd like to welcome you here today. This is Donna Tashton, and I am here with Michelle Gordon. Say hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Tell us about you.
I am Michelle Gordon. I am a realtor since 2002 in the West Michigan area. I'm a mother-daughter team and a small brokerage, boutique brokerage, and I like to cook.
Yes, you do.
I do. I like to cook. It's my new thing now.
And do you still have your cooking show?
I do.
How's that going?
It's going really well. So my my fitness trainer, Kelsey Young, and I do it together. Mm-hmm. And we started doing this because I'm gluten-free and dairy-free, not by choice. This is not a chosen lifestyle. I can't or I get sick. And food doesn't have to taste bad. So I just started cooking it, and we just got over the 21-day sugar detox. Mm. So we were cooking food that could still taste good even without sugar.
There's a lot of them.
There is. There is. And so sugar's not good for you.
No, it is really toxic.
It's very to the brain, to the body, to everything. So
but that's not our subject today.
I could go on that.
We could really go with that one, but that's not our subject today.
Yes.
So our jumping off point today that we've talked about is we're going to talk about perseverance and what it means to overcome. I don't know what all we're going to talk about because you and I can get carried away.
Big time.
But we're going to start with perseverance. And a lot of you listening know my story of persevering. I mean, Michelle and I both had single moms in the 80s and what that meant to us and the stigma that was in those days and how we persevered. Labels, perhaps.
Yes, big time labels.
That were put on us. So you want to share anything, your thoughts on that?
Well, when you said the label, the first thing that came to my mind is I had Josh in 1982, and we lived in Gastonia, North Carolina at the time. Very, very conservative, behind the times. Mm-hmm. They came to me in the hospital. One of the people from the newspaper came to me. They still put like the births in the paper at the time. And so they came to me and they said, okay, what is your name? We're getting your information. And then they said, so what is the father's name? And I said, well, there is no father. And they said, oh, we can't publish you in the newspaper then. And I don't know. I don't know what got up in me, but, when you become a mom, it's completely different, isn't it? And I sat up in my bed and I said, you will either publish my son's birth or I will sue you for discrimination. So he was the first child published in the newspaper of an unwed mother.
Oh, my.
I know. Isn't that funny?
In the 80s?
In the 80s. In the 80s. And so, I stirred it up a little bit over there because I worked at...
You do that everywhere you go. Oh,
well,
sorry.
Yes. That's a whole nother episode, isn't it? Status quo is not okay with me.
Yes. Yes.
So, but I worked at Shoney's. I think it was Bob's Big Boy at the time. And they actually put, welcome Josh, because I worked there for a really long time. It was a really small town, so everybody knew everybody. Mm-hmm. And half the town was very happy for me, and half the town was like, couldn't believe that they were making a big deal about it, because they would say, oh, there's Josh. He's the bastard of Michelle Gordon. Literally.
Holy moly.
Literally call him a bastard. And they would say it like you and I would say, oh, look at that shirt over there. It just rolled off their tongue like nobody's business. So, when you got to hear stuff like that, it can either tear you down or you can decide to overcome.
So what did you do? How did you, I know it's a long story, but...
It's a very long story.
How did you do that?
You know what? Back then, I didn't realize what I was doing. Now I do everything with purpose and a well thought out thing. I had nothing well thought out at that time, but I know looking back, I just surrounded myself with people who supported me.
Oh, there's wisdom in that.
Yeah, and I didn't know that I was doing that, but looking back, I realized that's what I was doing. I had people that were, and I'm actually friends with 2 of those people today, and Facebook. Thank God for Facebook, right? I probably without Facebook I wouldn't be, but they supported me. It's my friend Virginia and my friend Becky, and they loved Josh as much as they loved me, and they supported me through all of that. And if I would not have had that, it wasn't quantity, it was quality. I think you and I were just talking about that. It wasn't like I had 50 people giving me, I had 2 good people saying it's okay and we're with you.
Right. That's really good. We were talking about overcoming and what it takes to do that perseverance, the stick-to-itness, the determination to do what's in your heart. And I remember saying, I'll prove you wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had no clue how, but there was just something on the inside of me that's like, this will not be my future. All the stuff they were saying. Most people would end up on welfare, more than one kid, all those kinds of things, and the shame.
I know, it's true. I, at one point, lived in government housing. You know this about me. At one point, I lived in government housing, and I also had applied for food stamps because I qualified. And everybody said, why are you trying to be all, go get it, And my parents were like, I paid taxes for that. Go get it. They were all like, go do it. And I went and I asked the girl that was giving me food stamps, I asked her if I could use coupons, because coupons were a big deal back then.
Yes, they were.
Remember back in the day with the coupons, you didn't have to buy the item that was on the coupon. You could just turn in the coupon. So I did that, and I used a lot of coupons. But I never used the food stamps because I brought them home, and I said, and there's nothing wrong with food stamps. If you need food stamps, God, please take them.
Yes.
They're there for the right reasons. But I let it be a symbol to me that I wanted to work harder. So my food stamp sat on my table, and I knew that I had it there, and I knew that that was
backup.
Yeah, it was kind of like my net. So I knew it was there, and because I had that net, I was able to go ahead and persevere, as you would say. So I remember the day that I got to throw away the food stamps because I was like, you know what? I don't need you anymore.
That's so good.
Yeah. So I don't want anybody to think that I think that food stamps are bad, because they're not. No, but they did good for me.
Yes.
They did really good for me, but you can't let other people tell you how you're going to live your life and that you can't do things. And I think as women, we're told all the time that we can't, even in today's world.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
I found it difficult through all that time to begin to trust. You had those few people in your life, that were supporting you. I don't really have that in mine. It was just me and my daughter. But to the walls that we put up that we're not going to, and then, slowly begin to trust people and how that affects us as we grow. You have any insights into?
Yeah, I had those 2 girls in North Carolina, and we moved from North Carolina to Pennsylvania. And then that's when I became by myself. And so my parents were not, my parents were in the picture a little bit, but they weren't good people. So I wanted them to be out of the picture. So I'm one of those people, just because their family doesn't mean they need to have influence on your life. So I ended up without my parents being a support factor. And we moved to Pennsylvania where I didn't know anybody. So I also put up that wall. Yeah. I no longer could trust my parents. I no longer had friends I could trust. I had nobody that I could trust. And I had a big wall around me. And the funny thing is, I don't think anybody knew, because on the outside I was just smiling and laughing all the time.
Right.
So I always say you never know what someone's going through until you walk through their shoes. You don't know what it is. You don't know. Sometimes I think the people that laugh the most might be the people that are hurting the most.
Right.
So you just don't know. You put up that wall and you don't want to trust anybody. And if we leave that wall up too long, you get stuck.
Yeah.
And I know you do a thing getting unstuck, but you get stuck, and you can't do it by yourself.
No.
It was one of the biggest realizations, one of the biggest ahas I've ever had, is realizing I can't do it by myself. And I met my husband. So if you believe in God, which I do, I went to church. I finally found a church that would accept Josh and I, because no one would baptize him because he was of a single mom. And so I finally found United Church of Christ at the time, and they would baptize them. And so we started going to church, and I prayed, and I said, okay, I'm ready to open my heart to a man that will come and love me and my son. And I met him the old-fashioned way the very next week in a bar. So, and he's, and this July we'll be married 30 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time I started letting my walls down and began to cry. And you feel like you're never going to stop when you start that. It's a pretty scary moment.
It is.
To be able to let somebody in and that the walls start crumbling. But on the other side of it, it's so wonderful to be able to be secure and be loved and have that kind of support system to persevere. But even in that, we've both been married over 30 years, and even in that today, do you still find that you need to face perseverance on things to overcome the fear of failure?
Yeah, you do. About 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember how long it is. 3 years ago, I opened up a brokerage, and I know a lot of people in town. And even though I chose to sell that brokerage, I still feel like it was a failure. And because I didn't want to lose that. I think that's one of the things that I had to overcome. And for a year, I just kind of went and hibernated because I felt like everybody watched me sell that, and everybody thought that the sale was a failure. And in some ways, it was a failure to me because I wanted it to be bigger and better than anything else. But what I realized is that after I could get through that, that was not my destiny. That was not where I was supposed to be. And greater things were coming my way. And I go, as different things were happening to me in my life, I'm like, you know what? I would never have been able to do that if I still had that. I would, So sometimes, we don't know why, but we have to trust. But when you have a wall, you can't trust. Yeah.
Sometimes the letting go of things that appear to be good is making room for the things that are better. And
that's a very good, yeah.
And if we can approach every opportunity as not failure, but a period of growth, the things you learned from that to be able to handle your real estate career today and every other opportunity that has opened up to you, and to look at it as, I had told you earlier, my coach last year said to me, what if every week you plan to do something that has the potential of you failing? And that took my breath away. I'm like, what? Failure? That's not acceptable. There's shame. There's criticism, rejection, everything that's attached to that word that we call failure. When actually, if you can shift it, that it's a season of growth and that it pushes me and I'm growing and persevering and not staying stagnant, whatever that is. If I'm going to try to play the guitar this week, if I'm going to learn a new craft this week, whatever it may be, that I'm looking at it as growth as opposed to staying safe. And that goes in relationships. It just goes.
Well, don't you think the society needs to do that too? You just said something that what comes with that, and there's, if you take it to a bigger level, our news, society puts everybody down for failure.
Yes.
And we do it to each other in a
school. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. We got to stop putting people down for failure. Wouldn't it be cool if one day, as if I said, hey, Donna, I saw that you failed on that one. Good job.
Yeah.
And we don't
you'll do better next time. And all of that kind of stuff, because we didn't learn to cook overnight.
Nope.
We didn't learn all this stuff overnight, but there's some things in our life we expect to just, bam, I know how to do this. And it doesn't work like that we need to be kind to ourselves and allow ourselves to grow. And to me, that attitude helps with the perseverance, that I'm not so critical of myself. You talked about, what did you call it? Your evil twin. I call it my gremlin inner voice. It's that, that's a picture in my head.
We all have something, right? That tells
critical.
us that we're very bad.
Yes, and that you were critical of yourself. And really every opportunity is an opportunity for growth when we can shift our mindset to, what can I learn from this? Yeah, I didn't do that great, but I learned. And
if you learn to fail and you learn to embrace failure and to be okay, you will go much further because you won't be afraid to go.
Right.
And then you will also learn that I can fall all the way to nothing, and I know how to bring myself up. Once you learn that, I remember that aha moment because I did hit rock bottom. I was in government housing. I had a drug abusive husband. Most people don't know that I've been married twice. I was on food stamps. I don't know how much lower I can get. I mean, the next step was the shelter. I was very, very low. And knowing that I could come up from that and knowing that I could do better, because I ended up going to college on my own before I met my husband. I ended up doing all of that stuff. And so if you know that you can fail and get rock bottom and bring yourself back up again, you're not so scared to fail anymore. Yeah. And you know that you can overcome it.
Right.
And so it's like that safety net we were talking about, So I know.
So what would you tell some woman who's listening, who's feeling a bit stuck and relates to our story? What would you tell her?
What would I tell her? I would tell her to trust her gut. I would tell her to trust what she wants to do. And more people will tell you that you can't than you can. So anybody that's telling you can't, they need not to be your friend anymore.
Right.
And anybody that tells you can, those are the people that you surround yourself with.
That's so good.
And so, and I think that's the power of everything.
Right.
I house clean friends all the time. I don't know if you do that, but I house clean friends all the time. And sometimes it's very, very sad. But if they're not supporting me and my efforts and uplifting me, then we need not to be. And if I'm not supporting their efforts and uplifting them, then they need not to have me as their friend. I mean, It's both ways, and so, but you only, and I'll tell you, I'm not from here and I've never lived anywhere long enough to say that I'm from there. I picked Florida, but never lived there that long either. But people are friends from people from high school. Mm-hmm. And I've heard them say, if I didn't know them in high school, they probably wouldn't be my friend today because they're not good. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so why are you being friends with them right now?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Yes. I agree.
So house clean. It's January.
So be choosy about who you surround yourself with and trust your gut. Mm-hmm. And begin to trust people that do cheer you on.
Yeah.
I left one. Michelle and I met each other both in real estate, and I left one brokerage and said, I need to go where I'm celebrated, not tolerated.
There you go. Same thing.
And it's the same kind of mindset. It's go where I'm celebrated, be around people that celebrate me, that go, well, that's a quirky idea, but let's go for it and see what comes from that, and to trust. Michelle, if people want to have a question about real estate, how can they reach you?
Thank you. Or I also help people with gluten-free and dairy-free items. They're welcome to reach out to me. Okay. I will go shopping with them and help them read the labels. So no one helped me. It's hard. I'll help. Call or text 616-443-0596.
And they can find you all over online.
Yeah, Michelle I'm Gordon. Real easy.
Michelle Gordon is all over online.
Michelle Gordon, Realtor.
All right.
Yep, thanks.
Well, Michelle, I wanted to thank you for being with me here today. You're one of my cheerleaders, and I hope I am for you.
You are.
So, all right. Thank you, guys, and we will see you next time. And until next time, live vibrantly.
Thank you for joining us on this powerful episode of the You Were Designed for Greatness podcast. Please share this with others who might enjoy it. For more info on Donna Tashkin or to contact her, visit iVibrantLiving.com.